As Africa's leading defense news portal, DefenseWeb aims to give you the latest updates on African defense, the South African National Defense Force, and the defense industry. Hi folks, welcome to the past week in defense. In this week's edition on the continent, the Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency is getting ready for patrol vessels and rigid-hulled inflatable boat deliveries. A Cameroon Air Force C-130 incurs damages after crash landing. The Southern African Development Community are against the Force Intervention Brigade reconfiguration in Democratic Republic of Congo. African militant Islamist groups set a record for violent activity. Drug trafficking goes unabated in Cabo Delgado as the Islamic State warns South Africa not to get involved in the conflict. And South Africa's agricultural community faces a high murder risk. In SANDF news, Defence Minister Nosiviwe Mapisa-Nqakula is questioned on topics ranging from mental health to vehicle purchases and soldiers assist with COVID-19 screening. In company news, Paramount alleges smear campaign in Paramount Combat Systems case, and SANDF Austral is South Africa's largest black-owned defense company. In African defense news, the Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency, NAMASA, has taken delivery of patrol vessels and rigid-hulled inflatable boats as part of its Deep Blue Maritime Security Project and is gearing up to receive maritime surveillance jets, helicopters, unmanned aerial vehicles, and other equipment. In February this year, NAMASA Executive Director Operations, Rotimi Fashakin, said that 10 fast interceptor boats had been delivered and 7 more will arrive later in the year. 2 special mission aircraft, 2 helicopters, 4 unmanned aerial vehicles, and 16 armored vehicles are also being acquired. A subsequent NAMASA video showed small unmanned aerial vehicles, patrol boats, a twin-engine jet, and Pro-Force armored personnel carriers being readied for delivery. The fast interceptor rigid-hull inflatables appear to be the Haas Amaluis DHM-1050 boats built in the Netherlands. The unmanned aerial vehicles appear to be hand-launched Remo R002Bs manufactured by South Korea's Yukon Systems, while the fixed-wing aircraft are Cessna Citation CJ3 jets. 2 AW109 Grand New helicopters are also being acquired. In February this year, NAMASA showed some of its largest assets under the Deep Blue project. These were 2 special mission vessels to fight piracy and maritime crime built by Shipyard de Hoop in the Netherlands. Cameroon's Ministry of Defense has confirmed damage of one of its C-130 Hercules that crash landed on the 2nd of August in the country's northern city of Marua. The plane had on board nearly 100 persons, most of them personnel serving in a UN mission working in the Lake Chad Basin area. The aircraft missed the runway as it tried landing at the Marua Salak International Airport because of poor weather. Apart from material damage, which the Defense Ministry official described as slight, no injuries or loss of life were recorded. He, however, added that a technical process had been initiated to ensure a thorough assessment of the aircraft. Meanwhile, investigations have also been launched to determine what exactly went wrong. South Africa, along with Malawi and Tanzania, the 3 Southern African Development Community SADC countries making up the United Nations Force Intervention Brigade (FIB), and the Democratic Republic of Congo, met virtually this month to consider reconfiguration of the brigade. The virtual meeting, with South African President Cyril Ramaphosa in attendance, coincided with the release of a UN report on the security situation in the Central African country. A report by the UN Joint Human Rights Office said fighters of all armed groups were responsible for the summary executions and/or arbitrary killings of at least 1,315 people, including 165 children, in the first 6 months of this year. This was more than 3 times the 416 deaths recorded in the first half of the last year. The increase is attributed to deterioration in the human rights situation in areas of the country where conflict between the DR Congo armed forces and all armed groups is rife. The report identifies particularly Ituri, South Kivu, Tanganyika, and North Kivu. Eastern DR Congo, the report said, has been unstable for almost 30 years, with the population terrorized by dozens of militia groups, the legacy of 2 major wars. Defense Minister Nosiviwe Mapisa-Nqakula defended the current composition of the FIB against suggestions one of its 3 battalions be replaced by a multi-source composite battalion. Also on the virtual table was a suggestion for non-FIB/SADC officers to take command of FIB headquarters. South Africa's formal response by Mapisa-Nqakula, according to African Defence Review Director Aaron Olafia, is strenuous disagreement with the actions proposed. The FIB should remain a SADC-led force with expanded capabilities rather than become just another MONUSCO unit. The SADC meeting noted the regional bloc's concern as regards the UN decision to reconfigure the FIB and appealed for it not to be tampered with. African militant Islamic groups have demonstrated a decade of nearly uninterrupted growth in violent activity, though the focus of this has shifted over time. Militant groups in the Sahel, the Lake Chad Basin, and Mozambique have exhibited the sharpest increases in violent activity over the past year. A June-to-June review of violent episodes involving militant Islamist groups in Africa over the past decade underscores the growing and shifting threat posed by these groups. Key findings include a 31% jump in violent events involving militant Islamic groups in Africa in the 12 months ending 30th of June 2020, represents a record for violent activity by these groups, with 4,161 violent events. This period marks the first time this total has exceeded 4,000 and reflects a six-fold increase from 2011. The establishment of terrorist groups, Al-Shabaab and the Islamic State, with claims to establish Islamic law, the corporate interests of the oil industry, and the lobby of Eric Prince, a former operative of the American military elite, now at the head of a private business proposal to pacify Cabo Delgado, are considered so far by academics, press, and civil society as the motivations explaining the armed insurgency in the potentially richest province of Mozambique, according to the Center for Democracy and Development. By far, heavy drug trafficking and the illegal extraction of resources are framed in the equation, the center said. However, as documented by international reports and frequent police seizures, the coast of Cabo Delgado has been an important drug corridor in East Africa since the 1990s, a position recently expanded after Tunisia and Kenya repressed the trafficking networks, pushing them into Mozambican waters. One of the largest drug seizures in the country's history occurred in that province in 1997, when 12 tons of hashish were seized, part of it on the beach and another container on the way to Nqakula. In December last year, in the middle of the insurgent war, 2 ships carried 2 tons of heroin were intercepted by the Navy and the Defense and Security Forces after being stranded at sea, resulting in the detention of 25 foreigners. Cabo Delgado honors more than 30 islands as a transit point, but also uses cabotage and land transport system to drain drugs to Nampula, the distribution hub for strategic destinations. The Mozambique Financial Information Office uses independent research calculations estimating that the drug that passes through Mozambique is worth $600 million per year, an economy higher than the amount dispersed by the cooperation partners, as well as the revenues from some of the main export commodities. Of this amount, $100 million is left on the web of corruption in Mozambique, composed of influential politicians linked to Frelimo, local drug lords, and state officials assigned to the police, migration, and customs. More than religious fundamentalism and the dispute of oil multinationals, it is quite obvious that today's drug cartels are the ones who profit most from the war in Cabo Delgado, as the already weak sea surveillance has become practically non-existent, with all the forces focused on halting the increasingly concerted and regular advance of the Islamic State and Al-Shabaab terrorists. For several years now, the Navy, for lack of means, has been the branch of the armed forces with more men on land than at sea. This is why, for the 3 years, armed gangs have been entering the sea, destroying and plundering the districts along the coast of the province, with the state unable to stop them. While trying to resolve the war on the battlefield, the area of the Indian Ocean along Cabo Delgado has strengthened its role as a viaduct for the smuggling of narcotics and the consequent illicit enrichment of the mafia elites and networks of traffickers. In addition to drugs, the war has diverted attention from the illegal extraction of natural resources, a criminal practice associated with illegal immigration in the north of the country. South Africa has been dragged into the fray with Islamic State via an Arabic newsletter apparently warning the country not to become militarily involved. Extremists in northern Mozambique, going under the name Al-Husana wa Jama', have proclaimed allegiance to Islamic State. Whether the threat is real or propaganda has not yet been admitted by the South African government. What it has done is attracted the attention of South Africa's Ministers of State Security, Ayanda Ndlodlo, and Defense, Nosiviwe Mapisa-Nqakula. Ndlodlo is reported as saying the IS threat is taken seriously, and Mapisa-Nqakula, via an answer to the parliamentary question, bounced the issue to the Southern African Development Community and Mozambique. She told Democratic Alliance Shadow State Security Minister Minnie Gondwe the coordinated response of SADC to the insurgency in Mozambique is a matter involving the member state and the regional body. Details of that response can best be articulated by the chair of the Secretariat of SADC. The nature of the coordinated SADC regional political and military approach in response to the insurgency is informed by the decisions of the SADC organ on politics, defense and security affairs. Support for intervention, if there is to be any, led by the regional bloc, comes from Cobus Moreira, DA Shadow Defense and Military Veterans Minister. South Africa should preferably not interfere in the domestic affairs of a neighboring country if our own interests are not at risk. My view is it should be a SADC intervention to stabilize Cabo Delgado, Cobus Moreira said. Speaking at the Sovereign Security 2020 conference held virtually on the 6th of August, Jasmine Opperman from the Armed Conflict Location and Event Data Project said South Africa should be concerned about the growing insurgency there. On the question of becoming involved, she said, "We're damned if we do and we're damned if we don't. If we set foot on that soil, we will be a part of the problem." South Africa needs to be careful about intervening because there is a lot of anger towards Mozambique security forces whose abuses in trying to control the insurgency are resulting in sympathy for the insurgents and increased recruitment by Ansar al-Sana. Mozambique has also indicated it will protect its sovereignty itself and has been hesitant to call for outside assistance. Another thorny issue is the use of South African mercenaries in Mozambique. Are we going to be in contravention of our own laws with South African private military contractor Duck Advisory Group making use of helicopters providing air support? And there's the debate about their efficiency. How many civilians and terrorists are being killed? Opperman suggested the solution must go beyond a military response and said more bilateral engagements are needed between Mozambique and the Southern African Development Community. Farmers, their families, and those working for them are 4 times more likely to be murdered than the average South African, and twice more likely to die violently at the hands of an intruder than a police officer. These conclusions were drawn by Diane Bernard, the MP chairing the Democratic Alliance Rural Safety Workstream, following the release of annual crime statistics in July. Using statistics given to Parliament by Police Minister Becky Cele, she said they showed another 49 farmers were murdered last year, with reliable reports of 26 farmers and or farm workers murdered in the first 6 months of 2020. Cele's numbers were distributed by the Transvaal Agricultural Union, with retired General Chris van Zyl, its deputy manager, saying TAU statistics do not correspond with those the police minister tabled in Parliament. SA Police Service statistics have it the year 1st of April 2019 to the 31st of March saw 49 reported farm attacks. TAU numbers show 410 farm attacks in the financial year ending 28th of February. Van Zyl said, pointing out the representative agricultural organization worked on financial rather than calendar years. Our numbers on farm murders more or less correspond to SAPS statistics. They report 49 and 54 were reported to TAU, he said. Defense expert and African Defense Review Director Darren Olafia noted, any murder is a tragedy and our rural security problem desperately needs greater attention. The stat of 49 murders is lower than in the previous years, despite an overall increase in murders across the country. This may indicate some current measures are working. And in SANDF news, in the first 7 months of this year, Defense and Military Veterans Minister Nosiviwe Mapisa-Nqakula provided written responses to 17 questions posed by ministers of parliament from all opposition parties. Questions were from the Democratic Alliance, Freedom Front Plus and Economic Freedom Fighters, with subjects ranging from employment/deployment of soldiers and other military personnel as part of the national state of disaster, the ongoing shortfall in the defense budget, job creation by and in the National Defense Force, the provision of housing and other benefits for military veterans and acquisition of luxury vehicles. The luxury vehicle question was asked by Freedom Front Plus leader Peter Groenewald. He wanted the minister to elaborate on numbers, types and quantities acquired the past 5 financial years. He was told no luxury vehicles exceeding 600,000 Rand in price were purchased by the SANDF in the 2014/15 and 2016/17 financial years. 20 luxury vehicles were procured in the 2017 2018 financial year, and 2 vehicles were procured in the 2018-2019 financial year. Vehicles acquired were Audi, BMW, and Mercedes-Benz for utilization by Defense Foreign Relations, Defense Intelligence, the Joint Operations and Logistics Divisions, as well as the SA Army and SA Military Health Service. Another question came from EFF representatives Anakleta Siwiza. She is listed as a member of the Portfolio Committee on Public Works and Infrastructure and asked Mapisa-Nqakula for the number of soldiers diagnosed as mentally ill and the number of suicides in the SANDF and treatment available. The minister replied that it is not possible to quantify numbers of mentally ill soldiers without deep analysis of patient history per incident. The suicide incident is a problematic aspect. Suicides are classed as unnatural deaths and revert to the state coroner for final classification. The cause of death coding is vague, with the most capturing indicated as death unspecified. Given the complexity of the clinical environment under discussion, it would be prudent to do a complete study to be able to answer the question, the ministerial reply read. Soldiers are not only wielding assault rifles in support of police and other law enforcement agencies, they also brandish digital thermometers, aiding healthcare professionals screening for COVID-19. A statement issued by the Joint Operations Division of the SA National Defence Force has its soldiers and other military personnel are part of an effort that, to date, has seen close on 100,000 civilians screened. Screening is done at roadblocks, vehicle control points, and as part of outreach activities in all 9 provinces, according to the statement. The number of civilians screened using digital thermometers, also known as contactless scanners, to date is 99,440, with 4,926 showing positive indications for the virus. The positives are referred for testing in line with National Department of Health protocols, which the National Defence Force abides by during Operation Notlela. And in company news, Paramount Group is opposing legal action over alleged foul play in the liquidation of Paramount Combat Systems that it says is part of a wider misinformation campaign orchestrated by disgruntled former employees attempting to compete with Paramount for international contracts. General Kinetics Engineering Corporation, a creditor of Paramount Combat Systems (PCS), made an application to the High Court of South Africa to declare void and reverse the sale of assets and intellectual property (IP) of PCS that the liquidator sold to Paramount Land Systems. General Kinetics claims the sale was done at well below market value. Paramount has responded with an opposing affidavit where it opposes General Kinetics' allegations, accusing it of libellous, defamatory, and vexatious conduct. A Paramount spokesman said, "We have good reason to believe that there is a commercial, political, and personal attack against Paramount companies orchestrated by former employees who left the company under a cloud. Some are also now competing against our company for the same global contracts, offering similar products to potential customers. These individuals are also running misinformation campaigns in countries where we have customers or are exploring new business opportunities. They appear to be determined to sabotage our business by any means necessary, and some appear to have committed criminal offences as a result, including the theft and sabotage of our assets. We at Paramount Group take this very seriously and will not hesitate to take the necessary action to protect our reputation and our brand against these libellous and defamatory allegations." SANDF Austral has been established as South Africa's largest black-owned defence company, covering air, land and sea capabilities and technologies. According to Dr. Mthobisi Zondi, Executive Chairman of SANDF Austral, the current shareholders in 2018 registered SANDF Austral in line with its historical predecessor, which built armoured vehicles and ships, including the Ratel and SAS Drakensberg for the South African military in line with the 1970s and 80s. The new SANDF Austral Group includes SANDF Austral Aerospace, SANDF Austral Shipyards, SANDF Austral Defence Engineering Systems, and Torpedo South Africa. SANDF Austral has positioned itself as a preferred partner for multinational defence contractors that aim to enter the regional and international markets. The partnership model involves co-investment in the region, technology transfer, localized product support, and indigenization of customized product systems, company literature states. Defense capabilities cover remote control weapons stations, low-cost active protection systems, missile systems engineering, assembly and maintenance of torpedoes, radars and subsystems, and radar testing. Broad engineering and fabrication solutions are also offered. On the maritime side, the group offers the construction of small to mid-range steel and aluminum vessels and marine structures, repairs to all sizes of vessels and marine structures, and construction of maintenance and services to the offshore oil and gas industry. Shipbuilding and repair capabilities are offered through SANDF Offshore Shipyard, formerly Southern African Shipyards. Aerospace capabilities covering electronic warfare jamming pod, electronic countermeasures, maritime surveillance aircraft, and aircraft maintenance. Airport security is another capability offered. SANDF Offshore has a factory in Springs east of Johannesburg that manufacture precision mechanical components for weapon systems. It also has partnerships with numerous local companies in the fields of radar and electronic warfare, amongst others. Zondi told Defence Web that SANDF Offshore is focused on cooperation and/or collaboration. One of the collaborations with Italy's Leonardo, which is part of the Torpedoes SA joint venture. This aims to focus on torpedoes and related maritime warfare technologies, but could also include opportunities around the 76mm Otto Marella maritime surveillance aircraft, systems integration for naval vessels, etc. Leonardo has also introduced a small and affordable submarine for promotion on the African continent for construction at SANDF Offshore Shipyard in Durban. Our focus is to be a technology developer and primary systems integrator, and in the future, whilst we do have plans to expand our manufacturing facilities, we will work in a cooperative and collaborative manner with manufacturing partners, Zondi said. SANDF Offshore's target market is countries that have defense relations with South Africa or who are looking for alternative defense suppliers outside the West. Prime focus areas are Africa, Asia, South America, and the Middle East. SANDF Offshore is the largest black-owned defense company in South Africa, both in terms of revenue and facilities owned. Please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, our daily and weekly newsletter, and our other social media platforms if you enjoyed the webcast. Leave your comments below. Thank you for watching. Stay safe during the lockdown, and we'll see you next week.